I didn't catch my girlfriend cheating because I'm smart. I caught her because I was lazy. Marissa and I had this old, shared iPad we kept on the kitchen counter. It was the household remote, recipes, grocery lists, YouTube in the background while we cooked, the occasional late-night doom scroll when our phones were charging across the room. We'd had it since our second year together, back when we were broke enough to argue about name-brand cereal. That night, I was trying to make chili. The kind she liked, too much cumin, not enough heat, because she said spicy food at 2 a.m. felt like punishment. I just browned the meat, and I was wiping my hands on a towel when the iPad lit up with a notification. Maddie, he's still there. Eat it. At first I didn't even register it. Marissa had a friend named Maddie. She also worked at the hospital. They swapped memes and shift gossip constantly. I tapped it with the spoon still in my hand because my brain went, oh, she must be coming home soon. The iMessage thread opened. And I realized immediately, this wasn't Maddie. I mean, it might have been a Maddie somewhere in the world. But not her Maddie. Because this Maddie didn't talk like her. No emojis. No chaotic punctuation. No, girl, I'm dying. Just clipped questions like they were coordinating something. I stared at the screen like it might explain itself if I gave it enough time. Above the thread was a contact name I didn't recognize, Ethan. I wasn't the jealous type. Or at least, I'd always told myself I wasn't. I'm a project manager, I'm paid to be calm when everything is on fire. I'm the guy who makes lists and thinks, if we just communicate, we can solve this. So I did what calm, list-making men do when something feels off. I scrolled. At first it was not obvious. A lot of it looked like work. Short exchanges about cases, notes about who was on shift, did you tell admin, type stuff. If I'd stopped there, I could have convinced myself it was normal. But then, 3 inches down, I hit a message that made my stomach go cold. Ethan. I miss you. You didn't even look at me tonight. Marissa, because if I look too long I'll do something stupid. The kitchen suddenly felt too bright. The chili smelled like metal. I kept scrolling because my hands were moving even though my brain was screaming at them to stop. There were photos. Not nude. Not pornographic. But intimate in a way that somehow felt worse because it was casual. A picture of Marissa's coffee cup on a desk with his hand in the corner, like a soft, I was here. A blurry shot of 2 knees close together in a car. A mirror selfie of her in scrubs, hair down, with a caption, Marissa, don't get used to this. You don't deserve it. Ethan, I'm getting used to you. My mouth went dry. I heard the simmer of the pot, the faint buzz of the fridge, the normal house sounds that were suddenly mocking me. Like the walls were saying, you thought you knew what was happening here. I set the spoon down carefully, like I could keep everything from spilling if I moved slow enough. Marissa wasn't just my girlfriend. She was the person I planned my life around. We'd been together for 6 years. We were not messy. We were the couple friends asked for relationship advice because we didn't do drama. We did routines. We did stability. We had a mortgage. We had a dog. We had a spare bedroom we'd been calling the nursery someday, even though we never said it out loud like we were afraid to jinx it. The last conversation we had about marriage was in a Target aisle, arguing whether we were ring people or vacation people. We laughed about it. She leaned into me and said, "You're my person," like it was a fact. So when I found those messages, my first instinct wasn't rage. It was confusion. Because my brain kept trying to slot this into the version of Marissa I knew, Marissa who cried at dog rescue videos, who dropped off soup to our neighbor when her husband got sick, who once drove 30 minutes at midnight because I had a migraine and the only thing that helped was a specific brand of ginger ale. I told myself, maybe it's not what it looks like. That's what everyone says right before their life falls apart. I closed the iPad and stood there with my hands on the counter, staring at the tile like the answer might be hiding in the grout. Then I remembered something that made the air leave my lungs. 2 months ago, she started changing. Not big enough changes for a dramatic movie montage. Small ones. The kind you excuse because you want to be the supportive partner. She'd started picking up extra shifts. Short-staffed, she'd say, tired but proud. It's chaos. She got into self-care, which meant new skincare, a new gym membership, and suddenly she smelled different, like a perfume that wasn't hers. When I asked, she laughed and said, "Maddie made me try hers. I liked it." She started taking her phone into the bathroom. Every time. Even for 30 seconds. At first I joked. "You texting your secret boyfriend?" She rolled her eyes and kissed my cheek like I was adorable for even thinking that. I remember that moment now like a slap. Not because of what I said, because of how easy it was for her to play it off. Then there was the car. We shared my SUV most of the time. She had her own, but it was older and she hated driving it at night. A few times I got in after she'd used it, and the passenger seat was pushed back farther than I kept it. Like someone taller had been sitting there. When I asked, she said, "Probably Maddie." We grabbed food after shift. Maddie was 5'2". I told myself, seat positions don't convict anyone. That's the thing about red flags. Alone, they're nothing. Together, they're a parade. I didn't confront her that night. I wish I could say I was taking the high road. The truth is I was terrified. Because confrontation meant one of two things: I was wrong, and I'd blow up our relationship over paranoia. I was right, and I'd have to face reality. So I did what terrified people do. I investigated. The next day, I acted normal. I made coffee. I asked about her shift. I laughed at her story about an old man who tried to flirt with her by comparing his heart monitor to a rave. She kissed me on the forehead and said, "Long night. I might crash early." And I smiled and said, "Of course." Then she walked out the door in her scrubs, hair still damp, and I sat at the kitchen table staring at the iPad like it was a bomb. I told myself I'd just check the thread again, confirm it was nothing, and then I'd apologize in my head for ever doubting her. I opened it. There were new messages. "Ethan, can't stop thinking about last time." "Marissa, we can't do that again." "Not here." "Ethan, then where?" "Marissa, we'll figure it out." My hands started shaking. That was the moment denial died. I'm not proud of what I did next. But I'm going to say it plainly, I started looking for proof like I was building a case against the person I loved. I checked Find My. We shared locations. It was supposed to be safety. Convenience. "If you get kidnapped, I can find you," she joked once, like kidnappings were a normal Tuesday concern. Her dot was at the hospital, which made sense. But then I saw something that didn't. Under her name, it listed Marissa's iPhone and Marissa's watch. Her watch was not at the hospital. Her watch was at an apartment complex 10 minutes away, in a part of Raleigh we never went to. The kind of place with gated parking and those generic luxury living signs. I stared at it until my eyes watered. Maybe she forgot her watch. Maybe she left it at a friend's. Maybe she lent it to Maddie. I kept trying to build escape routes. Then I did something that finally made my stomach flip for real. I logged into our bank account. Marissa and I didn't have secrets about money. Not because we were perfect, because we had to be. Mortgage, bills, dog vet visits, life. We had separate fun money accounts but shared expenses came from the joint. Most of the charges were normal. Groceries. Gas. The streaming services we told ourselves we'd cancel. And then a charge from a place I didn't recognize. Horizon Suites, 149.00, it was a hotel. Not expensive, not fancy. The kind you book when you're not trying to be seen. The charge was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago was the same week Marissa told me she had a double shift and might just sleep in the staff lounge. I remember feeling proud of her dedication. I remember bringing her coffee the next morning and her saying, "You didn't have to do that," with this smile like I'd surprised her. I remember thinking, God, I'm lucky. I sat back in my chair and stared at the ceiling, trying to breathe. Then I did what I swore I'd never do, I drove to her hospital. I told myself I wasn't going to make a scene. I told myself I was just going to look at her face and somehow know if she was lying. It was 9:40 p.m. when I pulled into the parking garage. Hospitals at night have a weird vibe, bright fluorescent lights and tired people moving like ghosts. I parked on level 3, because that's where she usually parked, and I sat there with my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. I opened Find My again. Her phone was inside the hospital. Her watch was still at that apartment complex. I didn't know what that meant, but it didn't mean nothing. I waited. At 10:13, her phone moved, toward the exit. I got out of the car and stood near the stairwell door where people came out. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might throw up. Every time someone walked by, my brain went, that's her. Then it wasn't. Finally, I saw her. Marissa walked out like she always did after a shift, tired, shoulders slightly slumped, bag on one side. But something was different. She wasn't alone. A man walked beside her, taller than me, broad shoulders, hair messy in that effortless way. He leaned toward her as they walked, saying something that made her laugh, actually laugh, not polite coworker laugh. She touched his arm. Not like, excuse me. Like, you're mine. I stood frozen. Then he opened the passenger door of his car for her. And she slid in. I don't know what sound I made. I don't think I made one. I just felt my entire body shift into this cold, quiet place, like my emotions had shut down to protect me. They didn't drive out right away. They sat there. His head turned toward her. Her hand moved, toward his face. Then she kissed him. Not a quick peck. Not a we shouldn't kiss. A real kiss. Familiar. Practiced. My vision tunneled. The garage lights looked too white. The air smelled like exhaust and concrete. I walked toward them without thinking. I don't remember deciding. I just remember being there, suddenly, at the driver's side window as he turned and saw me. His face went through a series of expressions, confusion, recognition, and then something that made my skin crawl. A calm smile. Like he'd been expecting me. Marissa's head whipped around. The second she saw me, her face drained of color. Caleb, she said, like my name was a mistake. I tapped the window. The guy, Ethan, rolled it down slowly. Hey, he said, like we were neighbors. Marissa opened her door halfway, like she might run or fight, I couldn't tell. What are you doing here? She snapped. That's the thing I'll never forget, her first emotion wasn't guilt. It was anger. What am I doing here? I repeated, and my voice sounded far away. I should ask you that. She looked at Ethan, then back at me, jaw tight. This isn't, I laughed once, sharp. Don't. Ethan leaned back like he had all night. Caleb, right? He said. I'm Ethan. I know who you are, I said, and I realized my hands were shaking. Marissa got out of the car fully. Can we not do this here? She hissed. Please. Here, I said, looking around the empty garage, is the perfect place. Because it's where you're doing it. Her eyes flashed. Stop. I pulled my phone out and shoved it toward her. Horizon Suites. 2 weeks ago. Sleeping in the staff lounge, remember? Her face changed, just a flicker. Not surprise. Not confusion. Confirmation. Ethan's smile faded slightly, like he didn't enjoy this part. Marissa swallowed. Caleb, how long? I cut in. She blinked rapidly. It's complicated. It's not complicated, I said, voice rising. It's a question. How long? Ethan finally spoke again, too smooth. Look, man. This isn't, I turned on him. don't talk to me like you're the reasonable one here. Marissa stepped between us, palms up. Okay. Okay. Please. Just, let's go somewhere private. You had private, I said. You had my house. My bed. My life. You had privacy every single time you chose him. Her eyes filled with tears then, like she'd finally found the emotion she could use. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered. I stared at her. But it did. She nodded, tears slipping down. I'm sorry. I expected rage. I expected to yell. I expected to break something. Instead, I felt this heavy, hollow collapse inside me. Because the apology wasn't fixing anything. It was just proof. I looked past her at Ethan. He sat in the driver's seat, watching me like I was a problem he hoped would resolve itself. And then Marissa said something I never would have predicted. I was going to tell you. I actually laughed again. When? After you moved your watch back home. After you found a new place. After you decided which parts of our life you wanted to keep. Her breath hitched. And then she said, barely audible, after the bonus. I froze. What? Her eyes darted away. Ethan shifted in his seat, suddenly not so relaxed. What bonus? I asked, and my voice went dangerously calm. Marissa wiped her face with the back of her hand. It's not what you think. My stomach clenched. Marissa. She looked at me like I was a stranger. I'm up for lead NP. It comes with a signing bonus. A big one. I stared. Okay. She swallowed. We were going to use it, to fix things. To fix things, I repeated slowly, like the words were in a different language. She nodded quickly, almost desperate. We've been drifting. You know we have. You're always working. I'm always working. We don't, I warned. She rushed on anyway. Ethan he understands. He's there. He sees me. And then it got out of control. I couldn't even process it. So your plan was to cheat on me until you got a bonus and then, what? Buy me something? Take me on a vacation? Sprinkle money on betrayal like it turns it into a mistake? Her jaw tightened again, anger back in place. That's not fair. Not fair, I echoed, and something snapped. You want to talk about fair? We built a life. I'd been paying half that mortgage, planning a future, thinking we were partners. And you're standing here telling me you needed a bonus before you could tell me you're sleeping with another man? Ethan opened his door slightly, like he might step in. Marissa, let's go. I looked at him so hard he stopped. Then I said the one thing I didn't plan, the one thing that came out of somewhere deep and exhausted. Is this why your watch is at that apartment complex? Marissa's face went blank. Ethan's expression tightened. I pointed at my phone. Find my. Your watch has been at the same place for weeks. She didn't deny it. She just whispered, I didn't want you tracking me. That sentence hit harder than the kiss. Not because she wanted privacy. Because she knew she was doing something that required hiding. I took a step back like the ground had shifted. Marissa moved toward me. Caleb, please. We can talk. We can go to counseling. I'll end it. I swear. I stared at her and realized something horrifying. She was negotiating. Not confessing. Not breaking down. Not owning it. Negotiating, like she'd been caught shoplifting and hoped to return the item before anyone called the police. I looked at Ethan. You know she has a partner, right? I asked, even though it was obvious he did. Ethan's mouth twitched. She told me things were basically over. Marissa whipped toward him. Don't. My chest tightened. Basically over, I repeated. When was I going to find out? After the bonus? After you got promoted? after you had enough saved to land softer? Marissa's shoulders sagged. I didn't want to hurt you. I nodded slowly, like I understood. You didn't want to hurt me. She stepped closer, reaching for my arm. Caleb, I love you. I flinched away. The flinch did more than any words. Her face crumpled like she'd been slapped. And then, for the first time that night, Ethan looked uncomfortable. Because suddenly he wasn't the exciting escape. He was standing in the wreckage too. I took a breath I didn't feel. Here's what's going to happen, I said, and my voice surprised me with how steady it was. You're going to go wherever you were going. And I'm going home. Marissa shook her head. No. No, don't, I'm going home, I repeated. To pack a bag. Her eyes widened in panic. Caleb, please. Don't do this. Don't do this, I echoed softly, looking at her. That's what you should have said to yourself. I turned and walked away. I expected her to chase me. She didn't. I heard the car door shut behind me. I heard the engine start. And then I was alone in the fluorescent hum, trying not to collapse. At home, I moved like a robot. I packed a duffel bag. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop. I grabbed the dog's leash, then stopped because it felt cruel to take him. Like stealing the last living proof we'd been happy. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, staring at the comforter we picked out together. The worst part wasn't even imagining her with him. The worst part was realizing how many nights she'd come home and looked me in the eye and lied without a tremor. Around 3:30 a.m., my phone rang. Marissa. I let it ring. Then she texted. Please don't leave. Please. I'll end it right now. I'll show you. I'll do anything. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then I texted back one line. If you could do anything, you would have done it before you got caught. I drove to my brother's apartment and slept on his couch like a ghost. 2 days later, Marissa asked to meet. I need to explain, she said. Against my better judgment, I agreed, on one condition, public place. Neutral. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Raleigh. I sat with my back to the wall like I was in some bad movie. She arrived 10 minutes late, eyes puffy, hair in a messy bun like she wanted to look broken. She slid into the seat across from me and immediately started crying. I hate myself, she whispered. I watched her cry and felt tired. I don't know what you want from me, I said. I want a chance, she said quickly. I want counseling. I want to fix this. I stared at her. Did you end it? She hesitated. It was a fraction of a second. But it was there. And that hesitation told me everything. Marissa, I said, voice low. Did you end it? Tears spilled faster. I told him we can't talk outside of work. Outside of work. Like the affair was a hobby. I shook my head slowly. So, no. She reached across the table. Caleb, please. We're 6 years. We're a home. We're a mortgage, I finished. Her face flinched. And then I saw it, the smallest flash of calculation. That's the plot twist I wasn't ready for. Because I wasn't just heartbroken. I was being managed. I leaned forward. Tell me the truth, I said. The full truth. Was this just about feelings? She opened her mouth, then closed it. What do you mean? I took out my phone and pulled up another screen, an email I found after I left, when I logged into our mortgage portal to make sure my payments were still scheduled. A pre-approval inquiry. Not for our current home. For a different one. The inquiry was in her name, and mine, using my credit. I slid the phone across to her. Her face went white. You used my credit, I said quietly. For a house I didn't know about. She stared at the screen like it might dissolve. I was going to tell you. I almost laughed. After the bonus? Her lips trembled. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I sat back, disgust curling in my gut. Were you planning to leave? She didn't answer. I didn't need her to. I asked the question I dreaded most. Is he moving in with you? Her eyes filled again. She nodded once. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't screamed. Just a small nod that felt like a door closing. I stood up. Marissa shot up too, grabbing her purse like she might chase me. Caleb, wait please. I looked at her for a long time, trying to find the Marissa I loved. All I saw was someone who made choices, then tried to escape consequences. I'm going to talk to a lawyer, I said. Her face crumpled. No, Caleb, please, I'm going to talk to a lawyer, I repeated, calm and final. And I'm going to separate our finances today. She sobbed, and people looked over, and the barista paused mid-wipe, uncomfortable. I didn't care. I walked out, hands shaking, heart pounding, but with something I hadn't felt in days, clarity. The next week was paperwork and pain. I moved into a short-term rental. I changed passwords. I took my name off anything I could. I told my boss I needed flexibility because, personal issues, and he nodded like he'd heard it 100 times. Marissa texted constantly for the first few days. Apologies, memories, guilt, promises. Then anger when I didn't respond. Then silence. Then one final message, I hope you're happy destroying everything. That one made me laugh for real. Because it proved the last piece I needed, she didn't see what she did as destruction. She saw my reaction as destruction. 2 months later, I ran into Maddie at the grocery store. She looked startled to see me, then sad. Caleb, she said softly. I'm so sorry. I nodded, not trusting my voice. She hesitated, then said, just so you know, she wasn't supposed to do it like that. Ethan's done this before. He goes after people he supervises. I froze. Supervises? Maddie bit her lip. He's not just an ER doc. He's on the committee for promotions. He's influential. I felt my skin go cold again, not with heartbreak this time, with rage. I'm saying he's a predator, Maddie said, voice tight. And she's not his first. I stood there in the cereal aisle, listening to that word echo in my head. Predator. I wasn't sure what to do with it. It didn't erase her choices. It didn't rewind time. It didn't fix my trust. But it added a layer of ugliness I hadn't even considered. That night, I sat alone in my rental and stared at the ceiling the same way I had in our kitchen. And I realized the final twist wasn't about Marissa being secretly good or secretly evil. It was about how messy real betrayal is. Sometimes the person who breaks you is also broken. Sometimes they're manipulated. Sometimes they're selfish. Sometimes it's all of it, tangled together. It didn't matter. The outcome was still the same. She chose someone else. She chose secrecy. She chose risk. She chose to use my life like a safety net while she tested another one. So I did the only thing that made sense. I chose me. I moved out permanently. I filed the legal separation paperwork. I started therapy, not because I wanted her back, but because I didn't want to become someone I didn't recognize. And the last time I saw Marissa was in a courthouse hallway, eyes red, shoulders hunched, wearing the same necklace I bought her on our 3rd anniversary. She looked at me like she wanted to say something. Like she wanted forgiveness or absolution or a magic sentence that would make it all less real. I didn't give her any. I just nodded once, polite, distant, final, and kept walking. Because love doesn't survive on promises. It survives on choices. And her choices had already written the ending.